Let's wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Welcome to Book Talk Etc., a podcast bound to grow your TBR. I'm Tina from TBR Etc.
And I'm Hannah from Handpicked Books.
This is a conversational podcast about books and more from two Midwest mood readers who are easily distracted by new releases. And today we are talking about all things Little Free Library.
If you enjoy listening, we'd love for you to follow us on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. And if you have a quick minute, please consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or sharing us on social media. It truly helps us connect with other book lovers.
Hey everyone, it is the start of a new month, so we wanted to take the time to invite you to join us on Patreon. Patreon is an online membership platform that gives you a way to financially support our podcast. And for $5 a month, you get access to all of our bonus content, including all of our new stuff, as well as anything we published previously. If you've ever wanted your reading to be more of a social experience, this is a great way to find that connection because we are always connecting with patrons, they're connecting with each other, and just having really great bookish chats. Every month, you'll get access to 2 full-length bonus episodes and 1 recorded event, as well as invites to our BTE Discord server and Facebook group. We also host a monthly community read in our Discord, which is a text-based book club that feels like a big group chat without the pressure of being on Zoom. This month, we are going to be sharing our new recurring episode. It's called Niche Novels, where Hannah and I are bringing a handful of books that we've already read that fall under a very niche, sort of specific subgenre, and it's going to be different every month. We're so excited about that. You will also get a DNF chat, as well as our Mood Reader Happy Hour. Our August Read with BTE community read is going to be We Burn Daylight by Brett Anthony Johnston. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, head to patreon.com/booktalk.etc. or look for the link in our show notes. Your support makes this show possible, and we thank you so much. Hi, Hannah.
Hey, Tina. How are you?
Oh, fine. How are you?
I am doing okay. It's been a long week.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a long week, but I'm happy it's Friday Eve, and now we get to talk about books.
Yes.
So
this is always the best part of the week. Well, there's other best parts, but it's
one of the best parts of my week.
One of the best, yes, because we get to talk about books, share, get on the mic and, chit chat.
Chit chat.
Oh, boy. Well, something else that I've been working on, I'm very proud of myself. For July, I had a goal to get 10,000 steps a day. And I did. I've averaged 10,000 steps a day. So a few days I couldn't get there because of work or whatever. But on the average, 10,000 steps a day. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
Well done. And you have a walking pad, right?
I do. I have a walking pad and I have a regular treadmill. So it works for my indoor self. I do sometimes walk outside, but for the most part, it's been treadmill walking.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting a walking pad. The place where I work, we have wellness dollars that we can get reimbursed for things like that. And so I've thought about going ahead and getting, one of those little walking pads because my work will pay for it for me.
Oh my God, absolutely. You should. And I love it for folks that are easily distracted because I can't move around. I'm literally moving as a part of it. And so I have a standing desk too, or a little thing that I put on top of it. So I'm able to literally work and walk. And I find that I focus much better because my body's doing something, so I'm not constantly looking for other things to do or whatever, getting up and moving around. I'm just, kind of forced to stand there and work, which is really fun. It's my favorite time when I'm working and walking, oddly.
Yeah. You're not too understimulated while you're working.
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of walking, I have a question for you as I lead into our Loving Lately. Okay. If you're going to go for a walk, what do you call those things that you put on your feet?
Shoes?
Specifically.
Tennis shoes?
Okay. So there's no right answer to this, but I was thinking about my Loving Lately, which is gym shoes that I got, and I want to recommend them. But I was laughing because I was like, it's gym shoes where I'm from. And I guarantee, I was like, I bet Hannah calls it something else. So you call it tennis shoes. I know people call them sneakers. There's all different ways to describe the shoes you put on when you want to go work out. So I was just curious. I love my new gym shoes, though. They are from New Balance. They're the New Balance Women's 327s. And I will admit, I was on heard about them on TikTok. Somebody was like, what shoes are we wearing that are comfortable and cute and this and that? And I'm normally so annoyed with that because I'm like, we're wearing the same shoes that we owned last year. Like, we don't need new shoes, right? All the time. But I did. I needed a pair that was sort of a bridge between working out and fashionable. And these are
Hmm.
so cute. And somebody in the comments, I think said they were a podiatrist, and they're like, these are the ones that are the most comfortable. I said, sold. And they're cute. I love them. They are so comfortable. And I got the white/speckle combo. They're almost more of a cream color. But what I love about them, the look of them is really cool. I wear them though with dress pants. I wear them with leggings, like if I'm working out or whatever. And they go with everything. They're like the only gym shoes I'm bringing to my upcoming trip. I have a wide foot, and sometimes it could be tricky to get a shoe that is comfortable. I can confirm these are comfortable. The price is not bad. They were $100, and I got them from Dick's, which I know sometimes has sales. So, we'll link to these. I don't get any commission or anything, but I'm like so happy with them. I also saw that these are like a bestseller, so I feel very trendy. Anyway, wanted to bring my new gym shoes for you. They are the New Balance Women's 327 shoes.
Yeah, I've seen influencers who do, fashion stuff on TikTok even wear these with dresses and stuff.
Yes. Oh,
They're
I love
very
it.
versatile.
Very versatile. We had a work thing last week. I wore them with my swingy dress pants, and we had a bowling thing
Nice.
after, and I wore them bowling. I'm like, what can't these shoes do?
Yeah, there are some things happening in fashion right now that I'm a big
Hmm.
thumbs up on, and that
Yes.
is one of them. I also really like the higher rise white socks.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
the nerdy, we would have gotten like slaughtered in high school for wearing them kind of socks. I
Another.
love it. I
I
love it.
know. I know. I just grabbed John's socks. We have a sock problem in this house, but yes, I do like a
Naturally.
little bit of a higher sock.
Yeah, me too. Perfect. Well, my loving lately is really simple. There are a lot of different places and people who share Kindle book deals, but lately I've really been loving Book Riot's Kindle
Hmm.
deals. And when you go to their website, there's a little column on the left and you can select save on books, and you can go and they'll show you all of the different deals that are happening that day, and then also ones that have happened the previous day if those books are still on sale. And I am always really pleasantly surprised with how many popular and cool books there are for really cheap. And right now they have, for example, Gideon the Ninth, Death Valley, the new Travis Baldree Bookshops and Bone Dust, and the memoir The Manicurist's Daughter. All of those are just $2.99. And this can definitely be dangerous. I
Right.
also saw, Tina, I think you posted this on your stories recently. They also had listed The Plot,
Yes.
which was a popular thriller from a
Hmm.
couple of years ago, on sale for $2.99. And again, there are a lot of bloggers and other bookish sites that share Kindle deals, but I do feel like Book Riot does a really nice job of curating the list to be more popular titles and things that I think if you're heavily in the bookish space, you've definitely heard of these books and they're probably on your TBR. So I've really been enjoying perusing that list, and I've definitely gotten a couple of books from it. Hopefully, they don't end up in my Kindle graveyard and I actually read them. But I just thought that that was a good call out for anyone who's always looking for a Kindle deal. And that is Book Riot's Kindle deals on their website.
Amazing. And I was just going to say, I just shared the plot in my story, which I rarely do because I don't really
Hmm.
catch deals. Somebody that follows me commented on my reel and was like, hey, it's on sale for $2.99, which is a great price.
Yeah.
And when you were saying this, sharing it, I was like, oh, we're going to have to do a Kindle Graveyard episode. We'll have to add this to our content calendar because I feel like you've got some
Oh,
lingerers.
do I ever? I feel like we could do that episode regularly and I would
Yeah.
always have content for it.
Oh my
So,
gosh. So good. Okay. Today is our joint latest read because we just had our chat for July for our community read book. We read All This and More by Pung Shepherd together, discussed it last night with our patrons in Discord. And so we'll tell you about it today for our mutual latest read. And if you've not heard of it, All This and More is a pretty inventive novel about a woman who wins the chance to rewrite every mistake she's ever made and how far she'll go to find her elusive happily ever after. But it's a twist because the reader somewhat gets to decide what she does next to change her fate. So at the end of some of the chapters, it'll say, okay, if you want to go back to law school, go to this chapter. If you want to pursue this relationship, go here. So the reader has a little bit of autonomy when reading. It's about Marsh. She's just turned 45. Her life is somewhat in shambles, and she's not really happy with her career. Her marriage has ended, and she's feeling like her teenage daughter is getting more and more distant. She's convinced she's missed her chance at everything and that her life is basically over. And then she gets this opportunity to be the star of the global sensation All This and More, a show that uses quantum technology to allow contestants the chance to revise their past and change their present lives. And so she takes it. She gets to sort of explore all of these other lives she might have done had she made different choices along the way. But then while the technology is amazing, something seems a bit off, and you as a reader sort of start to figure out what is going on. This was a good chat. I think
Mm-hmm.
so. I'm middle of the road. I would say 3.5, 3.75 if I was giving it a star rating.
Yep.
Where did you land?
I felt the same exact way.
Hmm.
I would say that I had some qualms with it, but I also equally had some like pleasant surprises with it
Yeah.
and things that I enjoyed. So it was definitely a very middle of the road book. I will say, definitely a fun one to talk about.
Yeah. It was interesting to talk about. I agree. Love the uniqueness of it. Again, it's sort of reminding us of the choose your own adventure books, at least reminded me of that from when we
Mm-hmm.
were younger. And I think that was really fun to have that opportunity to make different choices. I like that we got into the action. This, for me, was very plot driven. I
Mm-hmm.
tend to really need to connect with the characters if I'm really going to rate something highly. For this, because there were so many twists and turns and this choice and that choice, I never fully connected with Marsh in a way that I prefer to. It wasn't bad. It was just like, oh, okay, I don't know. I don't have really grounding. I wasn't even really rooting for her that hard in either of the relationships.
Right. Well, it's hard too because we don't get to fully know her, it felt like, as readers, because her life is switching so much,
Hmm.
with the various choices that she makes as she strives to make her life more and more perfect. So even though, yes, like Marsh is the same person as she tries to perfect her life, but a lot of times I feel like when I'm reading, what connects me to the main character is also the relationships that they have.
Hmm.
And so with her constant, changing of those things, it was hard to fully invest myself in her life.
Yes, agreed. I did like, though, that you as a reader are placed into all these different scenarios with her. And one of the fun parts of our chat was, okay, which life would you keep? Like, I had a clear answer. I was like, oh, definitely this one. Like, makes sense to me. It was interesting. There were a lot of fun reveals. Again, I think if you like this type of story, if you like science fiction, but it's very light, it wasn't super hard or esoteric with the science behind it. If you're someone that needs to know how it works exactly, you're not going to really get that.
Right.
But you get enough. You get enough to say, okay, I'm going to just buy into this premise. And I liked it. I think this actually would be a good pairing with the book I brought last week, The Family Experiment by John Mars.
Hmm.
Similar ideas where you're like thinking about, okay, which path would I take? There's a little bit of, sort of almost AI or technology involved with it.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. I enjoyed reading it. I do not recommend the audio. That is my bad. Definitely you want to do this one in print if possible. The narrator was great. It was that it was hard to, I felt confused. I'm like, am I reading this right? Like I felt like I was almost doing it wrong. And I don't think there is a wrong way, but still I wasn't quite sure if I got it all.
Yeah. And I wonder too, because I also started listening to it, but my print copy was the ARC. So the advanced reader's copy, which comes out before
Yeah.
it's been finalized. And I think that there were some discrepancies there. And I
Ah.
got a little lost a couple of times. And so at one point, I had to get the print copy, the finished copy, and then just read it through straight through because I was just getting a little lost. But I don't think that's on the book. I think that was on me choosing the wrong format and then not reading like the finalized
Mm-hmm.
copy.
Yeah.
So I wished I had had a smoother reading journey overall. But I think to your point, I thought it was really creative and it was definitely plot driven. I think if you're a plot driven reader, this one will work really well. And although the science aspect is light, I do feel like there were enough answers. There were a couple times in the book where I was like, how would this be working? And then that question got answered.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So there were definitely there was some thought put into the science aspect, but yeah, if you're a quantum physicist, I mean, this probably isn't going to be your cup of
Probably,
tea.
probably not for you. I mean, maybe chime in and let us know if any of this could be possible. I would still try this author again. The Book of M looks really interesting to me. I'd had that on my TBR for ages. So overall, we liked it, and
Yeah,
kind of we'll end it
would
there.
recommend would recommend for some readers.
Would recommend for some readers. This was All This and More by Pung Shepherd. They also said all this and more like 100 times, which grated on me.
Because that was how it like
That was how it shifted
to
timelines or
the
what have
next.
you. So she'd be like, it's
Mm-hmm.
all this and
And
more. I'm
more.
like, oh God. Yes.
Agreed. That graded. I read this is a sidebar, but I read the Book of M and really enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Okay.
Hmm.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering. I'm glad to hear that. All right. So today our topic is little free libraries. I'm so happy we did this one. And honestly, Hannah, this is sort of what brought your love for little free libraries is sort of what brought you to the show in a way, because I remember I always, I've known who you are online for a long time, but recently you've been doing a lot of little free library hunting reels or TikToks. I'm like, that is so
Hmm.
fun. Like I loved them. And like that was sort of always in the back of my head that I wanted to do an episode like this. Do you have a lot near you, or what got you into little free library hunting?
Yeah. So I started doing these videos back in 2021, and I had recently gotten laid off from work, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to jump into making content. I'm going to, you know I want to find a new way to make my content fun and give me something to do with it while I'm kind of in this like weird in between phase of life. And so it originally started when I had come up with a challenge for myself, which I didn't necessarily complete, but it was fun to plan for and work towards. But I wanted to do a summer of free reading.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
was like, I wonder if I could just read for free all summer, which I definitely did read a lot for free. I did end up also reading other books that I had bought. But when I was originally planning for that, I was visiting a ton of little free libraries in my area as a way to read for free. And I was like, I should document this and start doing, a content series basically on me trying to read for free and seeing what kinds of books you can find by hunting little free libraries and not spending any money. And that's kind of how it started. And it's definitely my process has evolved since then, but that was kind of the genesis of that whole journey for me.
I do remember you saying you were going to read for free. It like clicked. I'm like, I remember that. And
Yep.
because I just thought it was so interesting. And I have to say, I don't know that I really did anything. I don't know that I visited a ton of little free libraries prior to your videos. I know Renee has one. And I
Hmm.
remember sending her a box of books to put in her little
Oh,
free
fun.
library. But I just didn't like visit them like that. And I also was in an area where there were not that many. Now I'm in Chicagoland. There are a million. And this leads me to my next point and sort of maybe, how if you do something different, let us know. But I really never knew how to find them until I learned of the Little Free Library app,
Hmm.
which it's on my it's not even in a folder. It's just on my homepage in my
Same.
phone because anytime so what I do I, sort of started visiting local ones. And now my favorite thing to do is anytime I'm visiting someplace new, especially if I'm driving, goodbye. I'm like on my app trying to find them. I visited some when we were in Virginia. I found some when we were in Ohio. Like anytime I'm doing a road trip, I try and find some. And what's great about the app, you just basically go wherever you are, it shows you a map, and then it shows you little pins of where little free libraries are. Sometimes you have to like scroll out if you're not in an area where there are a ton, or it'll show you like, for example, here it says two. So you scroll in, there are two kind of close to each other. You click on it And it tells you, okay, for example, this one it's called Penny's Little Free Library. You click on it and it connects to your Apple map. So you can hit directions and it takes you right there,
Yep.
gives you a little bit of the story of it. If there is a backstory, like this one has a really, really sweet backstory. Someone had passed and they made this in their honor. It also gives you, some of them are easy access. Like I know where this one is and it's right off sort of a main road. And I love checking in. You can check in and say if you
Mhm.
took a book, left a book, and then if you want to favorite it, you can do that. So I think it's just so fun. Is that sort of how you use this? Do you use this app as well?
Yeah, I definitely use the app, and it was especially helpful. Well, it's helpful no matter what and regardless. But when I first started doing this, I lived in the Raleigh area of North Carolina. And I have to say, if you are a listener and you live in the Raleigh Durham Triangle area of North Carolina, you are in luck. There are so many little free libraries and really good ones. The reading community there is extremely robust. There are also a ton of book creators and influencers who live in the Raleigh area. I had a pretty big group of friends and readers that all were content creators as well. And we were just like this tiny pocket of what was there. I don't know what or why that is the case, but there are just so many readers there. And that includes little free library stewards. And it was helpful because I would choose very specific areas on a map and there would be 10 like in this small
Whoa.
area. And so I used it to kind of map my way around trying to find all of the ones in the triangle area. I never visited them all. And I did so many videos and I still have not visited them all. So, but the map was really helpful because otherwise I wouldn't have found nearly as many. But yeah, the other thing that I wanted to ask you about too, Tina, is if you have noticed any patterns with what you notice to be little free libraries that are stewarded well,
Mhm.
or maybe ones that you have noticed aren't, and if there are any patterns that you have found with that.
Yeah, they definitely vary in terms of quality. And when I say quality, I'm not even really talking about the books that are in it because I think, there are oftentimes books for every reader. Sometimes it's all kids' books or children's books, which I think great. Absolutely, especially if they're by a school, they should have kids' books in them. I find the ones that are by schools or by parks or in more public places, and this is just maybe not everywhere, those tend to be a little rougher. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
if it's in someone's front yard, those tend to be well maintained or at least cleaned out, because I've seen a few during my travels for this topic that had like literal garbage in there. And I'm like, it makes me so sad. And we can talk
Mm-hmm.
about sort of little free library etiquette. But I think for me, at somebody's house, tend to be better maintained. Although if it's in their front yard, I get anxiety about going there because I'm like, don't look at me.
They
Don't
can see you.
don't
Yeah.
perceive me. I'm so sorry. I'm here. I promise. I'm just even exchange. Like I get so nervous because that's me.
Mm-hmm.
But what about you?
Yeah, I've noticed the exact same thing. And I think that it makes sense because it's much easier to maintain a little free library that's right outside of your door than
Hmm.
it is to maintain one that you have to actually travel to stock or clean, etc. I also know that there are some programs run by Little Free Library, I think in collaboration with other nonprofits. I know in my current city, there is a collection of Little Free Libraries that are actually all named the same thing because they were a bunch of them that got planted in collaboration with this other nonprofit. And those ones aren't super well maintained because I almost wonder if they don't have an actual steward because they're
Oh,
a part of like a
interesting.
state or a citywide program. So it's hard because I think that two other members in the community who don't know that aren't necessarily stepping in to help keep those little free libraries maintained. So
Hmm.
I think that that makes sense. I think even some of the ones that are run by community centers or at parks, et cetera, don't necessarily have an actual individual that planted that little free library themselves. And so I think that when you actually have someone that's like, I want a little free library and I'm going to make it myself and put it in my front yard and maintain it, then yeah, it's going to be more well stewarded
Hmm.
because it's intentionally done by someone who really wants to, who's very passionate about the project.
No, for sure. And I'm like, whenever I come across one that is sort of junky, we'll just say it. Some of them are junky,
Junkie.
and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Some of them, if like there's damage, I'm not going to leave any books in there because I know they're getting water damage and no one's going to take them. And there is a function here where you can report an issue. I don't know what happens. I did that
Mm-hmm.
once because the glass was broken and it was sort of all over. And I'm like, let me
Same.
put a report in. Don't know what happens next, but I did it. I wonder, how do you feel about this? If you see one, we'll say it's in a park, right? And it's just they're, put up by a nonprofit or a library, what have you, and it's filled with just whatever sort of books that no one's going to take or textbooks or something. How do you feel about taking that out and replacing it with ARCs? Because I know we, are fortunate enough to have a lot of books to share. Is that good practice, bad practice, or would you do it?
I think it's a really good question. I kind of tend to think that as long as you are replacing them and you are replacing them with, I want to say better value books, I guess that is subjective. But I think that if you're frequenting a little free library enough as well, and you've noticed these books have been sitting in here. I mean, I've gone to ones where there are textbooks and religious texts and things like that that have been sitting there for over a year,
Mhm.
then I think that that's perfectly fine to take those out and either recycle them or, take them to the library or something like that, as long as you're not, doing anything nefarious with them or trying to sell them or things like
Right.
that, as long
Yes,
as
don't
you're
do that.
yeah, as long as you're doing that, I feel like responsibly and ethically, then I don't think there's anything wrong with replacing it with better value
Mhm.
books for the community.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. There's this huge one run by a local library, and it's brand new, and, like, I think they literally just grabbed books that were, like had been sitting on the library shelves for ages, and they, again, are books I've never heard of. I heard of one out of this entire double-decker little free library, and so I'm very tempted to go back and just replace it with books that I know, like, more people would be interested in, specifically because it's a really well-maintained library in a great area, and I'm like, "How come it's so" I don't know, not good.
Not well maintained.
Not well
Yeah.
maintained. And I feel like that, when I posted a video about it on TikTok and a lot of people were like, "Oh, this all of the little free libraries I have are junky." And I'm like, I hate that, because I really want this. I guess, gosh, we did not even tell you what little free library is. I hopefully what little free library is. It's a nonprofit. And basically, it's these book boxes that people or nonprofits or libraries can put in their community. And the goal is to, offer these books for anybody. So even if you don't have a book that you can offer in exchange, you're still, I think, welcome to browse and take one or two.
Hmm.
It's a global exchange, it's a volunteer led network of book lovers, which I just think is so cool. And we'll link to their website because they have some really interesting things. Something that I saw on a bunch of the little free libraries that I visited, they would have certain flags. So this one says easy access, so it's easy to get to, but also
Hmm.
it said read in color library. And I was curious what that meant. And it's an initiative by Little Free Library that provides books with perspectives on racism and social justice and celebrates BIPOC and queer characters and other marginalized voices. And so it sounds like they sort of help with stocking those libraries or, that is a focus of them. And I think that's really, really cool. There's other initiatives too that I saw. I can't remember what I saw because I'm going to be honest, in order to, so what we did for this episode, we visited little free libraries and we said, okay, two of the books we pick, we're going to read for this specific episode. Don't judge me. Do you want to know how many little free libraries I visited?
Yes, of course.
22.
That's a lot.
That's so many. I became obsessed. When I have a wild hair or I have something in my head, I can't do it
Yeah.
by half. I'm like, I'm going to visit every little free library possible. 22.
I'm the same way. I love a
Yeah.
project.
Love a project. It was really fun. And I took videos of
Yeah.
all of them. So I'm going to have to
Oh, I can't wait
compile
to
them at
see.
some point. But yeah, it was really, really a good time. Do you know about how many you visited, or was it sort of a part of your everyday that it wasn't that you
Yeah.
tracked it?
So one of the books that I brought, I actually got from a little free library back when I was doing it in North Carolina. So a
Yeah.
while ago. And it was just one that I always wanted to read. I never got to it. I picked it up a while back. because it was one of those ones that's just been on my TBR for forever. And I saw it in a little free library, but then I still didn't pick it up and read it. But then I picked up another one just doing kind of my normal rounds. I don't have as many close to me where I
Mm-hmm.
am. If I travel like 30 or 45 minutes away to a nearby city, I'll find more, but that's not really a part of my normal routine. I would say
Sure.
that I maybe only do that like once every few months. And so, but I happened to find one of the books that I brought today in a little free library pretty close to me. And I almost never find anything that I would normally pick up in this little free library. So I was pretty stoked to find at least something by a
Mm-hmm.
popular author in this one. But I didn't really make this as much of a project, but that's only because I already do little free library
So
hunting
often.
so
Mm-hmm.
often all the time.
Yeah.
So I just happened to find this one kind of in my normal routine.
Yeah, so I think it was so fun. It was a really fun project for me to focus on. A lot of times I would drive and the girls would be with me. And so Lily got to the point where she was like, "Get me one too. Don't forget to get me a book." So it was so
Yes.
awesome that she got really excited about it. We got a couple
Oh,
cute
that's
ones.
fun.
So we'll wrap up with little free library etiquette. I would say I encourage you to download the app, use the app, visit, and be a good community member and don't take them all. By God, don't sell them. I have seen a couple that say, "Smile, you're on camera," which gives me the most anxiety ever. 'Cause
I
I'm like,
know.
no. But then I realize it's because they want to make sure that people aren't taking the entire inventory.
And I have had some friends who have little free libraries who have noticed certain people or vehicles that drive up and sweep out their little free
Oh
library.
gosh,
And don't do that.
don't
Don't
do that.
be that person unless you are literally coming with another box of books and you're going to replace with just as many. Don't don't do that. That said, I do think that if you're on a walk and you pass a little free library and you see something that's been on your TBR for ages, but you don't necessarily have a book to replace that at that time, I think that's totally fine. That's what they're there for. They're a free library. Take the book, read it, and either come and bring it back when you're done reading it or keep it for your library. And maybe next time you go on a walk, put another one in there for the community to enjoy.
Yep. That's basically it. And it's been a really fun challenge. Now I'm a little, so I read my two books and then I kind of got a little sad because I was in a new area and I'm like, "Ooh, let's go to the little free library app." And I was like, "Oh, but I'm done." But I don't know why I thought like my project is over. I've read my two books. Now I don't get to look anymore. I still stopped and looked and everything else because it's also a really fun way to just navigate a new neighborhood. I've seen amazing houses. We had
hmm
storms, a couple weeks ago, and I saw an entire huge oak tree uprooted in the onto the grass. Anyway, I saw this
Mm,
crazy storm damage, which wasn't like great. It happened, but it was kind of neat to see in an odd way because an entire tree was uprooted. So, like on
yeah.
my travels, it's been a fun way to just, I don't know, it's been a way to amuse myself, I guess, this
Yeah.
summer with
For
kids.
sure. And it's also fun to see, like, there was a little free library in Raleigh that I used to go to all the time. And I could tell that the steward really enjoyed awards because all the time I would find books in there that were Booker longlisted, National Book Award longlisted, Women's Prize. And that was a very clear theme. And it was just kind of fun, like, oh, this reader clearly really likes following the prizes and reading
Mhm.
along with them. And it's just kind of a fun way to passively see what other readers are doing and how they're enjoying their reading life.
Oh, I think that's such a good point. Yeah, you get a lot of information, right, from the people that
Yeah,
have little ones. And someday, maybe I will get my own. I don't know if I'd
same.
have it at my house, though. I think I'd have it in a local park just
Oh,
because.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
And then you can be one of those ones that actually
Maintains
maintains
it.
it and keeps it
I
up.
know. Well, there were a few that I was like, maybe I'll contact this person and be like, "Can I adopt yours? Can I repaint
Yeah.
it? Can I help?"
Give it a
Anyway,
little spruce.
anyway, let us know how you find little free libraries. If you have some fun tips that we didn't mention, if you've got really unique ones or cool ones in your area, I'll post just a couple of my photos or videos. My favorite one in my area is in a tree, a literal tree, like
Oh,
a cut down
fun.
tree. It's gorgeous. And there's like a tiny one next to it for kids' books. It's one of my favorites to visit. But now we will tell you what we did read, in fact. Do you want to begin?
Yeah. So, my first book is one that I found a couple of years ago. It's been on my TBR for a while. I finally got to it. And that is The Boys in the Boat by Daniel James Brown.
Yes.
And this is kind of fun because, like I said, it had been on my TBR for a really long time. When I found it in Little Free Library, I was so excited. I was like, I've been meaning to read this for forever. I grabbed it. Of course, it ended up sitting on my shelf for another, year or so before I picked it up. But my brother and I buddy listen to books every month. We try to together. And this is the one that we chose for this month. And he is more of the nonfiction reader and I'm more of a fiction reader. So we try to alternate, and we had read fiction last. So I was like, why don't we try this one? I think it might be one that's up both of our alleys. And then we can watch the movie afterward because I've heard really good things about the movie too. And it was kind of serendipitous because the Olympics is happening right now, the Summer Olympics. And I didn't even really, I knew it was about rowing, but I didn't realize that this book was specifically about the 1936 Olympics that was in Berlin. And so it was really cool and serendipitous to have picked up this book, not meaning to, during the Olympics. And this story is a hopeful underdog story set against the backdrop of the 1936 Berlin Olympics. The author chronicles the journey of 9 working class American rowers who really defy expectations to challenge the might of the Nazi regime. And although this book is about rowing, it is about sports, it is also set against the backdrop of such a important part of history that I really enjoyed that tie-in. The whole book is really told through the lens of Joe Rance, who is an impoverished young man who has been estranged from his family. And the book explores themes of resilience and camaraderie. The narrative really captures the raw energy and determination of these athletes as they overcome adversity to achieve really the impossible. And it's a very powerful testament to the human spirit. The book was also just really gripping to read. And even though you know the ending, you still want to get to that end and hear about how they won and how they got there. This book also takes place, like I said, during a really unique time in history, and not just set against the backdrop right before World War II started, but also the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl. And the author really transports you with these details of even the shops in the area and the weather happening during this time. And I also really liked that the author chose one character who kind of symbolized, I think, what the author was trying to promote, which is that you can come from virtually nothing and still become an Olympic athlete. And that's especially powerful when you think about what Hitler was trying to do and the fact that they ended up defeating Germany in the Olympics. So I loved the symbolism there of, Germany watching the American team work together in unison to move their boat ahead and beat their team. This foreshadowing America's unified opposition for Hitler and the Nazi regime in just a few years' time. I wanted to share a quote from the book that I feel like perfectly encapsulates what this book was trying to do. It says, standing there watching them, it occurred to me that when Hitler watched Joe and the boys fight their way back from the rear of the field to sweep ahead of Italy and Germany 75 years ago, he saw but did not recognize heralds of his doom. He could not have known that one day hundreds and thousands of boys just like them, boys who shared their essential natures, decent and unassuming, not privileged or favored by anything in particular, just loyal, committed, and perseverant men would return to Germany dressed in olive drab, hunting him down. And I loved it. And I thought that it was a really powerful book. And I would definitely recommend this if you haven't picked it up yet. I am really glad that I read it against the backdrop of the Olympics this year. I don't know if I would have otherwise had the emotional capacity to care about maybe like the semantics of boat mechanics and rowing strokes. But getting to that end made it totally worth it. And it was just a lovely reading experience overall. And I can't wait to watch the movie. And that was The Boys in the Boat by Daniel James Brown.
All right. Oh, I love an Olympic story. So that sounds really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely has been on my radar. And look at you reading nonfiction.
I know. I know. And one that had just been on my TBR for so long. I'm so glad that I knocked it knocked it out.
Oh, I know. That's like a really good. If I paid more attention to my TBR, I imagine that would feel really good. Although the two that I'm bringing today have been on my TBR for a long time. So
Hey,
maybe,
hey.
maybe thanks to the little free library. That's actually one thing I said when I was like starting to film this. I said, "How exciting. I don't know what I'm going to run into. I'm just going to let the little
Mhm.
free libraries tell me what I need to read."
Yes.
And both of mine go together very, very well, actually. My first one is Reconstructing Amelia by Kimberly McCreight. And
Oh, good one.
yeah, this one came out in 2013. It is a legal thriller. I knew nothing about it, although I did know the author because I've read one of her previous books. And I knew people were saying when that book came out that they really liked her debut, which is Reconstructing Amelia. It's about Kate, who is a lawyer, and she's in the biggest meeting of her career when she gets a telephone call from Grace Hall, her daughter's exclusive private school in Park Slope, Brooklyn. Amelia has been suspended effective immediately, and Kate must get her daughter now. Kate's super stressed. She's in Manhattan, has to figure out a way to get over to Brooklyn quickly. And when she gets there, she finds the school is surrounded by police officers, fire trucks, and an ambulance. But by then, it is too late for Amelia and for Kate because Amelia was an academic overachiever. And they're saying that she jumped because she was so distraught by being caught cheating. Kate does not believe it. She knows her daughter and feels like something more went on. So, for the rest of the book, it sort of reconstructs the day of what happened. And it's about how far a mother is willing to go to vindicate the memory of a daughter whose life she could not save. I liked this a lot. I thought it was really, really well done. So it is a little bit of a mashup of this legal drama. She's a lawyer. She's interfacing with some of the police. A lot of what she does, though, a lot of the book, it's not in the courtroom, it's with police officers mixed with dark academia because the book is told through three alternating points of view. You hear from Amelia, you hear from her mom, Kate, and then there's an anonymous blog called Gracefully that sort of intersperses. It also reminded me a little bit of Gossip Girl, oddly, because
Mm,
this blog
love
had a
that.
lot of knowledge, had a lot of like, it read in that voice, which I think is very reminiscent, made sense for when this book was written, in the 2013. I enjoyed it. I think it was probably would have been really, really well received had I read this when it came out. I've read so many books that are, I don't want to say similar, but sort of in the same vein. So I don't think anything in here for me was particularly shocking. I really felt for Kate as a mother. I mean, just absolutely destroyed her, obviously. There's a lot of really good reveals and sort of backstories about really what happened to Amelia, who she was. Kate's doing some digging. And, it really is at the end of the day a book about friendship. It's about a book about finding yourself. And it's a book about, maybe what happens when somebody gets in way over their head. It's about secrets, and I did the audio, really well done on audio. And I think if any of this sounds good, you also get a little bit of that multimedia. You get some like Facebook posts, you get a little bit of the blog, Twitter, whatever it was at the time. I thought it was interesting and it was a satisfying resolution. So overall, I thought this was pretty good. It is Reconstructing Amelia by Kimberly McCreight.
Yeah, that is one that I have wanted to read for a while. I didn't know that it had some mixed media
A
elements
little
to it.
bit.
So,
Yes, a
yeah, I
little
always
bit.
I always love that. Well, good. I'm glad that you had a win. That's
I had a win.
always
Yes, I will call
it's
it a win
always
for
fun.
sure. Mhm.
Yeah. I am glad that I had a win also because my next one was not. It is also another thriller. Tina, I believe you have read this one as
Yes.
well, and that is The Coworker by Frida McFadden. So I have read The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, and I enjoyed it. Definitely have to suspend disbelief, but I did feel like with that one, I enjoyed the ride a little bit more, even
Mhm.
though it was a little silly in parts. So the coworker is told in dual perspectives. It's about two women who work together, and one terrible crime ends up happening toward the beginning of the book. And from there, we kind of find out throughout these two perspectives what ended up happening with these two colleagues. I just don't know how to talk about this book because I don't have that many good things to say about it, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't like books unless there is a well explained and nuanced reason where a character is just quote unquote really strange or really different. And we don't really get any other background on the character except for those things. I just don't think that that is a good way to develop a character. And we definitely had that happen with one of our main characters here. And there were definitely a couple of twists that you don't see coming as a reader, right? Which I definitely enjoy in a thriller. But with this one, it just seemed so bananas and out there that it honestly didn't make me think, wow, what a shock. And it more made me think, what did I just make myself suffer through? And so, and I know that I am being pretty harsh. And if you like this book and if you love Frida McFadden, I think that that is great. I think that if you haven't read a lot of thrillers, or if you're someone who really enjoys something that is just really out there that you do have to suspend your disbelief for, I know a lot of readers who are like that enjoy something being super outlandish. So I think if you like that, then you could definitely read this book in one sitting on the beach. It is a really fast read. I will say that is one thing that Frida McFadden does really well is her books are very propulsive, fast-paced, short chapters, and so plot-driven that they're easy to get through whether you like them or not. So even though this one didn't work for me, I still read it in like a day and a half, but it's just not one that I personally can get behind. I do think that I'm going to try Frida's other books because I did enjoy The Housemaid. This one just didn't work for me. And that is The Coworker by Frida McFadden.
I can resonate. What you just said resonates with me for sure. I saved this book for when I was having Cassia, my baby, last year. And I was like, I need something easy. I'm going to read this in the hospital. And I did, but I was so mad because I had just been flayed open like a baked potato the day before. And I'm reading this book that I hate. And I'm like, I couldn't tell if it was because I was in pain or because I really was not enjoying the and I just remember, and I sort of was like, I gotta finish this because I have to see. It did keep me, I finished it, right? And it's one of those books where you're just, I'm just laughing at my detail of my C-section, but yeah, it was
I liked it.
They both were painful. They both were painful.
Both were painful.
But I will read Frida McFadden again. I'm not a hater at all. This one just didn't work for me either. I was like, issues all around. But sometimes, we do like to balance and bring the books that we really loved along with the books that we really did not.
Yeah, they all can't work for us. And
they can't
that's
all be
okay.
winners. And that is okay. To that end, though, this one really worked for me. It's Defending Jacob by William Landay. I'm so happy that the Little Free Library gods presented me this book because this book has been on many, many favorites lists. This book has been, it's all over. There's an adaptation and I just never read it. I knew a lot of people loved it. It has a 4.0 rating on Goodreads with over 300,000 ratings, which is huge. That means it's well loved. This one also came out in 2012 or, right around when I think Amelia was the year later. But if you're not familiar, it is a character-driven mystery about Andy Barber. Andy Barber has been an assistant district attorney in suburban Massachusetts for more than 20 years. He is well respected, tenacious in the courtroom, and happy at home with his wife Lori and his son Jacob. But when a shocking crime shatters their New England town, Andy is blindsided by what happens next. His 14-year-old son is charged with the murder of a fellow student. And this book essentially works backwards. It doesn't work backwards. You're in the moment with this family as the son gets accused of being a murderer. I don't even really know how to talk about this one in a way that will accurately convey how much I enjoyed it. It's quite long. Even though I had the physical copy, I went back and forth. I did a lot of it in print, but I also picked up the audio. It was available. There was no holds on it for that. It is a very evocative book. It felt very accurate. I do believe the author has an experience in law. So you get that legal drama, you get that background, and you sort of think about, my God, what would happen? Their entire lives are destroyed because the child gets accused of this brutal murder. And you are sitting there as they go through the trial. What I loved is you're in the moment with the family, you're reading on, but you also get these interstitials with flashbacks to cross examination and people speaking up at trial. Oh my gosh. Landy was a prosecutor. So that's why it felt so
Mm.
authentic. And I think it gave me old school John Grisham, but with more psychological drama. It gave me I can't say more. And I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to tell you why I loved it so much. Just know the reason that I loved it so much took place toward the second half of the book.
Hmm.
I thought this one was so smart. It was so shocking to the point where I had to I heard it and then I was like, wait, let me go back. And I grabbed the print copy to pick it up to just double check that I really had understood what happened. It's a legal drama that includes these really visceral family emotions, and I loved it. I gave this one 5 stars. I thought it was such a fun ride, and I'm super happy that I read it. Now I need to watch the adaptation. Lord knows when I'll get to it, but you never know. And that book is Defending Jacob by William Landay.
Ooh, good one. I really want to read that one sometime too. I love that you and I both brought a book that we now have to watch the movie for.
I know, right? I'm like, well, I want to cancel. I have Apple TV and I have never watched it. I just saw me get charged again. So I was like, let me
Oh,
list out all my Apple TV shows that I want to watch. And then I can cancel it because I'm clearly not using it.
I just signed up for Peacock because
Oh,
I needed to watch the Olympics.
I'm sure
But
you and everybody else. Peacock's the
yep.
one I will never cancel because Peacock has my beloved Housewives. I love
Oh,
Peacock. I'm
yeah.
on that app every day.
I was going to say I might cancel it after the Olympics, but who knows? I might not.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I am going to bring my shelf edition, which I am very excited about. And that is The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer. Have
Mm.
you heard of this one,
Yes,
Tina?
yes. I have not.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it, but I know the cover.
So it was a book of the month pick, I believe, for July. And this is the same author of The Wishing Game, which I feel like was very popular last year, but did get some kind of polarizing reviews. And this one definitely sounds like it's going to be in the same vein, as in it's going to be kind of whimsical, magical realism. This one is tied to one of my favorite stories as a kid, and that is C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia. On the back of the book, it says that this novel is a fairy tale for grown-ups who still knock on the back of wardrobes just in case. I love that. And I have a feeling that this one is going to be so nostalgic. This is about best friends Jeremy Cox and Rafe Howell, who went missing in a West Virginia state forest, only to mysteriously reappear 6 months later with no explanation for where they'd gone or how they'd survived. So 15 years after their homecoming, we have Rafe, who is a reclusive artist, and Jeremy, who has become a famed missing persons investigator. And with his uncanny abilities, he is the one person who can help another character in our story find her sister, who has vanished in the very same forest as Rafe and Jeremy. So Rafe and Jeremy must return to the enchanted world that they called home for 6 months, for only then can they get back to everything and everyone that they have lost. This sounds like a really sweet and also adventurous story, and I think I'm really going to enjoy it. I plan on reading this one very soon. That is The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer.
I want you to read fantasy for the show. Because
Yeah,
Lord knows I never do. So,
I'm happy to.
yeah,
I'm actually reading a fantasy book right now.
fabulous.
I'm reading, have you seen this book, Quicksilver?
No,
All over TikTok. Like
no.
every 15-year-old and their 20-year-old friends are reading this book.
Well, no. I see it.
Anyway,
Mhm.
the cover is so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah,
It has a fairy man crying on the cover.
indeed, it does.
I mean, no shade to men in tears, but it's not a great cover design.
Yeah, he definitely
And
looks AI.
And the paper, oh, it's definitely AI. Dustin said the exact same thing. And the paperback is no better. It looks like it was done by Canva. Anyway, the contents though, so far, I'm like a third of the way through, and it's actually not, it's not bad. It's not bad.
All right.
I think it's better written even than like Fourth Wing.
Ooh, shots fired. I mean, that's
I
not
know.
hard, but okay.
Yeah, right.
Just kidding. All right. I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to wrap up.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Lily's been saying that to me all week.
We're
Every
gonna
time I'm
wrap
on
it
my
up.
computer, she's like, are you wrapping up? I'm like, Lily, it's 10 a.m. No, I'm not done with work yet. But I'm going to wrap up today with The Chamber by Will Dean. It is my shelf edition. And I grabbed this because I really liked the book that I read of his the last one. I thought it was just the perfect amount of engaging and over the top, but in a good way. So this one sounds like my greatest fear. It is about 6 experienced saturation divers who are locked inside a hyperbaric chamber. They're calm and professional. They know that rapid decompression would be fatal, so they work in shifts, breathing helium and surviving in hot, close quarters. And then one of them is found dead in his bunk. With 4 days of decompression to go before the locked hatch to the chamber can be safely opened, the group must watch one another's backs at all times. And when another diver is discovered unresponsive, everyone's on edge because who or what is taking them out one by one? And will any of them still be alive by the time the 4 days is up? Or will paranoia, exhaustion, suspicion, and pressure destroy them all? This is And Then There Were None meets The Last Breath. It is a locked room thriller. Now, my question is, why are they there? Why are they locked in there? I'm not quite sure. Training? I'll have to read it to find out. So this one comes out in August, on August 6th. So actually the same day as this episode. It is The Chamber by Will Dean.
I wonder if he wrote this one after the whole Ocean Gate incident.
Oh, that would
because
be,
it sounds so similar.
That is a good point. Yeah. Probably, right?
So we'll have to see if it's
we'll have to see
similar reason. Why
It's a great
they're
cover.
down there.
I actually thought it was the same book as the one I read, just the UK cover, because that was also set on a boat.
Oh, yep.
And I was like, oh, it's a different one. Anyway, I just discovered that. That's it for today. We thank you for spending a part of your day with us. Links to all the books mentioned can be found in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can help us by following us wherever you listen and by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps us get our show out to new listeners and grows our audience. And don't forget, if you would like access to exclusive bonus content and community, you can join us for $5 a month on patreon.com/booktalk, etc.
If you'd like to connect with us, you can email us at booktalk.etc@gmail.com. You can also connect with us both at Booktalk Etc. on Instagram, and Tina at TBR Etc. and Hannah at Handpicked Books. Talk to you next week, and in the meantime, remember,
everything's better with books.
Hell yeah, it is.